What's going on, guys, and welcome to episode 270 of #AskGSM here today for January 30th, 2019. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well. Hot off the heels of Royal Rumble weekend. Many highlights and a few low points between TakeOver Phoenix and Royal Rumble on Saturday and Sunday, respectively. We're talking all about it here on #AskGSM today, answering your questions from Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Leave a comment on the post I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. So without further ado, let's get started here first with Emmanuel A. from YouTube. His first question was, I've noticed a couple of people saying NXT TakeOver Phoenix was one of the weakest takeovers, but I guess it goes to show the high standards that have been set for these shows. I'll admit there's been shows with higher and more consistent highs, but I'll never complain about seeing a show with Gargano versus Ricochet live. I didn't know you were there live. That's fucking awesome. So I was satisfied. But for the sake of asking, is it one of the weaker takeovers in history? To really go back and analyze every single takeover would be a tall task, and compare it to every other takeover in the last 4 or 5 years, that would be, asking a lot of me to do a lot of research here. It was definitely one of the weaker takeovers in recent memory, at least in the last year. Weaker compared to the other ones. I thought War Games 2 was tremendous. Brooklyn 4 was a better show. Chicago 2 was a better show. WrestleMania New Orleans, or TakeOver New Orleans, was easily the best takeover, still of all time in my opinion. And then Philadelphia, it might have been on par with the last year's Royal Rumble weekend takeover. I was at that show. I thought that was a tremendous takeover too. But by no means the best takeover of the year. I think what people really remember about that takeover was that it featured two of the best matches of 2018 in Gargano versus Almas and Aleister Black versus Adam Cole. But even that show, I think, on the whole, was a better takeover than what we saw on Saturday. That's not to say TakeOver Phoenix was bad. It was a great show. But like you said, the high standards of TakeOver, I felt like this TakeOver was kind of like a filler TakeOver. Yeah, we had 2 titles change hands. But I don't know, the opener I thought was excellent. The main event was very, very good. I thought Black and Ciampa was great. I thought their first match was better, but the main event was still great. I've seen better TakeOver matches with both guys. Gargano versus Ricochet was hands down undoubtedly the undisputed best match of the weekend. No pun intended with Adam Cole, but he wasn't even involved. That was the best match of the weekend and my favorite match of 2019 so far. Then what else did we have? Baszler and Belair was good. I've seen better matches with Belair. I thought, with Baszler. It might have been Belair's best match I've ever seen. She's had some good matches with a few different women, including Nikki Cross. But Baszler has had better matches with Kairi Sane, but it was still a good match. Told a very good story, especially down the stretch. And then Matt Riddle versus Cassius Ohno was good. It wasn't amazing. It wasn't as great as I thought it could have been. But for the time it was allotted, I thought it was a pretty good match. So overall, it was a great takeover, a terrific takeover even. The bar was set for Royal Rumble weekend, for the Royal Rumble on Sunday. But compared to every other takeover, at least in the last year, it was a weaker show. Was it one of the weaker shows of all time? I don't think so. I think the Royal Rumble weekend takeovers, I feel like this is a recurring theme. Because I know people have said this before. People said the same thing about TakeOver Philadelphia, despite the fact it was headlined by the single greatest match in NXT history between Johnny Gargano and Andrade Cien Almas. And people had said the same thing about TakeOver, what was it, San Antonio about 2 years ago over Royal Rumble 2017 weekend. I thought that was a very good show too. Bobby Roode won the NXT Championship in the main event. Roderick Strong faced, who was it, Hideo Itami or Andrade Cien Almas. That was a great match too. What else happened on that show? I couldn't honestly tell you. I know Asuka defended the title on the Fatal 4-Way against, I think, Nikki Cross, Peyton Royce, and Billie Kay, which was also a fun match. Nothing amazing. I'm going to hit myself. What else was on that show? I know Bobby Roode won the championship, but I guess that kind of goes to show it was one of the weaker takeovers if I can't remember the full card. What was the NXT Tag Team title match on that show? Who were the champions? It was Authors of Pain. Authors of Pain won the tag titles from DIY, which was a good match. The women's title match I already established. I think it was Ty Dillinger versus Eric Young also on that show. And Seth Rollins also invaded too to get his hands on Triple H. But yeah, in retrospect, was it one of the weaker takeovers in recent memory? Of course. But it was by no means like a terrible show. So yeah, compared to other takeovers, it might have been one of the weaker takeovers in recent memory. I feel like that's a recurring theme with the Royal Rumble weekend takeovers because they kind of hold out for the WrestleMania weekend takeovers, which have always been fucking amazing. Because New Orleans was awesome. The one over WrestleMania 32 weekend was awesome. And the one that I was at in Orlando back in 2017 was also very good. So, again, maybe they're holding out for something bigger over WrestleMania weekend, but overall, I thought it was a great show. Emmanuel's second question. I've also noticed a consensus that the stuff with the women was a lot better than the stuff with the men at the Royal Rumble. And Becky Lynch should have been bookended the show with the Royal Rumble win instead of Seth Rollins. It's probably true, but in WWE's defense, 2 Rumbles in one show is still a new phenomenon, and I get why giving the women most of the first half of the show with the world title scenes taking up the second half seemed like a decent way of pacing things. How would you have organized the Royal Rumble card? I agree to an extent. Rollins' win was not a bad way to close the show. If they had Becky Lynch win earlier on in the night and they had someone like a Braun Strowman win, like someone like a Braun Strowman win the Royal Rumble to close out the show, that would have been like a way bigger problem to have. Because, I mean, people like Braun, they probably would have reacted fairly to it. They likely would not have pooped all over it. It's hard to say. People really wanted Rollins to win. He was the guy to win. He made the most sense. He's the fan favorite right now. And I'm glad he won. It was a great moment. He was in the Rumble for about 45 minutes. He was the Iron Man this year, and he had a great showing, and he won the whole thing. So that was not a bad way to close out the show. But I've heard from people who were there who had said that the Becky Lynch Rumble win got a better reaction, maybe because it wasn't as predictable. Becky Lynch, I mean, I even predicted Becky Lynch would walk out as the Rumble winner. I thought, part of me had thought that Charlotte might have a chance of walking out, as many other people thought as well. I thought they would tease a Becky win only to go with Charlotte. Thankfully, they didn't go that route. But the Becky Lynch win did, feel like a bigger moment. It had a hotter reaction. Because Becky Lynch is the best thing going in all of WWE right now. Rollins is amazing and all, but Becky Lynch is the fucking man for a reason. So if they had her win close out the show, this is what I would have done. If you had said, like you had said in your question, if they had Asuka and Becky kick off the show, which is what I still would have kicked off regardless, if they had that kick off the show and the Women's Rumble end the show, I mean, I would say, well, you're not going to have the Women's Rumble close out 2 back-to-back Royal Rumble pay-per-views. What about the men? Got to give the men, closing out the show. I got to switch it up. You know what? Fuck it. The men have closed out every Rumble for the past 30 years. They can afford to have 2 Rumble winners with the women close out these Royal Rumble pay-per-views. And honestly, the Women's Rumble I thought was better than the men's this year. Fight me on it, debate me on it. I know I'm not alone in saying that. I enjoyed the Women's Rumble better than the men's. The men's Rumble had its moments. I liked the NXT appearances. I liked the NXT appearances in the women's one as well. I thought the women's one just told a better story. Early on, it was kind of flat, let's be honest. The first maybe half of that match was not great. The same thing can be said for the men's. It just felt really fucking random when you have a Final Four with Rollins, Strowman, Dolph Ziggler, and Andrade. I love Andrade, but there was no chance in hell of him winning. Same thing with Ziggler, probably even more so. So that was a little weird. I thought the final 3 or 4 with the women made a lot of sense. With Becky, Bayley, Charlotte, and Nia Jax, I thought that was great. I don't know, I just really enjoyed the second half of the match, especially after Becky came in. And the surprises were cool. No focus on names from the past, which people are going to be upset about. They have fucking Maria Kanellis in there, who cares? I like Maria, but at least they weren't bringing back Molly Holly or fucking, what was her name, Jacqueline, like last year. Who gives a fuck? I like Molly Holly. It was cute for one night. They don't need to bring back those people every single year. So I'm fine with them putting the focus on the women of, the talent of tomorrow instead of faces from the past. Nonetheless, this is what my card would have looked like on paper. This was a quick jot down, so I didn't really put a lot of thought into this, but this is what my Royal Rumble card likely would have looked like. So Asuka and Lynch, like you said, kicking off the show. Then, as they had done as well, Miz and Shane versus The Bar for the SmackDown Tag Team titles following that. So instead of putting Rousey and Sasha 3, which was a good spot for it because the crowd was into it, they were still hot for it, I would have put Bryan and AJ on third. Now, You're probably thinking, oh, it's the WWE Championship. It should be higher up in the card. Yeah, in theory, yes, but let's be honest. People are looking a lot less forward to Bryan and Styles than they were the 2 Rumble matches, Balor and Lesnar, and even Rousey and Banks to an extent. Bryan and Styles, I've enjoyed their feud a lot. They had a good match on Sunday. It was boring as fucking shit. It was like watching paint dry for 25 minutes, and then the finish sucked too. I like the Daniel Bryan-Eric Rowan pairing, but having Eric Rowan interfere after Bryan had beat Styles clean at TLC last month was ass-backwards booking. And the match was just a total bore, only to get that as a finish. That was pretty shitty. So to get a better crowd reaction, I would have that on third as opposed to right before the Women's Rumble or right after the Women's Rumble, because that was a mistake. They were not going to go crazy for it, whatever. So I'd have that on third. Then the Men's Rumble. I'd have the Men's Rumble on fourth, which I think is what they did last year. They had it either on third or fourth, because I know last year they had Styles versus Owens and Zayn, and they had the SmackDown Tag Team title match with the Usos, Benjamin, and Gable. They might have had one more match in there. I don't think they did, but they might have. But yeah, I would put Asuka Lynch, Miz and Shane versus The Bar, Bryan and Styles, Men's Rumble, then Balor and Lesnar. Because I would rather have Balor and Lesnar get like the sleeper treatment from the crowd than Rousey and Banks. I think the crowd, if you save Rousey and Banks until right before the main event, it would have been a better transition. Keep people waiting for it. Lesnar and Balor, both actually matches really had predictable outcomes. So you can kind of interchange those now that I'm thinking back on it. And then obviously close out the show with the Women's Rumble. But the way they did it this year instead of the men closing out was not a bad way. It might have been better if the women closed out the show. I don't know if they would have rushed the match. Point being, you don't need fucking 7 or 8 matches on the main card for the Royal Rumble, especially when you have 2 Rumble matches already on the show. It's just not necessary. And they had to rush through the Men's Rumble as a result. So they did not need the SmackDown Tag Team title match on that show. They could have saved that for SmackDown. Even, honestly, Asuka and Lynch was an amazing match. You could have saved that for a little later on, or just put Becky Lynch right in the Rumble anyway. Did that match really need to happen? They could have saved that for SmackDown or Elimination Chamber. So, and if you cut those 2 matches out, trim down Bryan and Styles a little bit, it would have ended right at 11, if not a little sooner. But that's purely my opinion. And then Emmanuel A's third question here, his third question was, Bryan and Styles 4, remind me if that's correct. And I think it is, because they had a match after WrestleMania last year on SmackDown, so that would be 1. Or actually 5, I guess, if you include that one. So there was that match, the one on SmackDown before Crown Jewel, where Styles beat Bryan clean. The third match was when Bryan won the belt on SmackDown right before Survivor Series. The fourth match being their TLC match, and then the fifth one being at the Royal Rumble. But if you're only including like this feud and not counting that one-off the one-off SmackDown match from a year ago, then yeah, it was the 4th encounter. But nonetheless, Bryan and Styles at the Royal Rumble was the weakest of their series, which personally is disappointing but not surprising. I said a few weeks ago that I thought another Bryan and Styles match was running the risk of getting tiring, and sadly, it kind of was in the end. While I'm not necessarily on the AJ Styles is boring bandwagon, I can't help but think the Rumble match underwhelming him. The Rumble match was underwhelming on his end. Despite the focus on the real AJ Styles, he wrestled the new Daniel Bryan the same as he did every other match. And why is that? So the thing with the Bryan AJ match, which, like I just got done talking about, was very boring. It was a very boring match that suffered from a few different things. One, it immediately followed the Women's Rumble, which ran way too long. And I liked the Rumble. I don't know if it was a better Women's Rumble than last year. I think last year's Women's Rumble was a little bit better. But this Women's Rumble was also very good. At least the Final 4 I thought was tremendous compared to last year's, which was fucking like Asuka and the Bella Twins or something, which was way too obvious that Asuka was winning. This year's Women's Rumble might have been better for the finish alone. But anyway, the fact that it followed that Women's Rumble did not do it any favors. Secondly, like you said, the feud has been going on now for months. We've seen a lot of great matches between the two on SmackDown. Their TLC match, in my opinion, was one of the best matches of 2018 on pay-per-view. There was really no way they were going to top that, especially at this point in the program. Third of all, we knew Styles was not winning the championship. There was not much uncertainty surrounding the outcome. Fourth of all, it ran way too long. if you trimmed out like fucking 10 minutes, made it like a 15-minute title match at best, it would have been a lot better. And people probably still would have sat on their hands for it. But I like that Bryan incorporated that into his promo immediately after the Rumble for WWE.com. He's like, these fans are fickle. They want wrestling, but they don't react to our wrestling match, blah, blah, blah. I thought that was amazing. No, AJ's not boring. I just thought that the feud, AJ, not every match he has is fucking 5 stars and instant classic, but because I thought the Bryan match was amazing from TLC. This match, not so much. But like you said, you had mentioned, another factor in why the match kind of fell flat for a lot of people. It was easily the weakest thing, not only of their series, but of the entire show, by far. But as you had mentioned, Emmanuel, I think another reason why the match fell flat for a lot of people, myself included, was that there was nothing different about it than any other match they've had up to this point. You kind of felt the bad blood on SmackDown when they were brawling and attacking each other from behind, and then they go in there and have a grappling match. So I thought that was kind of weird. It's like that old adage where people talk, and it's not like a catch, it's not like really a phrase or anything, but people say this all the time. You have this like ruthless rivalry between two people who hate each other's guts, and they fucking, just despise each other with every fiber of their being. And then they go in there and like lock up, and they do the old traditional like, fighting for strength type thing. It's like, what the fuck are you doing? You just go right after the guy. Like, it was just bizarre to me. I thought Brock and Balor worked a much better pace. Immediately as soon as that bell rang, Balor went right after Brock. If anyone should have been doing the grappling shit, it should have been them. But they didn't. I thought Balor and Brock had a very fun match for as long as it lasted because of the pace. Bryan and AJ just went in there and took it easy for like 25 minutes. They picked up the pace a little bit down the stretch, but then they ended on a sour note after the interference from Eric Rowan. So again, I thought the pacing of it, the timing of it, the point of the program that they're at right now at these two, the finish, every one of those things combined made for a very boring and underwhelming WWE Championship match. And honestly, I said this on Twitter on Sunday, but I would go so far as to say it was not only the weakest match in the series between Styles and Bryan, it might have been the most boring WWE AJ Styles match I've ever seen. And that includes the Jinder Mahal matches, which is saying a lot. But this match on Sunday was incredibly boring. Jeremy B. from Facebook, his first question was, thoughts on the Rusev and Nakamura becoming a tag team? On the tag team between Rusev and Nakamura. It makes a little sense, in my opinion, just because they just got done feuding. It's not like they were rivals from a few months ago and they put their differences aside. I mean, at least they acknowledge the fact they had bad blood, they still have bad blood, and this is a one-off alliance for next week's SmackDown, I think is when they're doing the match between them and Gallows and Anderson. But they just had a match on Sunday, and Rusev turns heel, and all of a sudden they're buddy-buddy. To me, that makes very little sense. But anyway, I mean, it's something, I guess, for Nakamura and Rusev. I mean, we'll see if they have chemistry as partners. They had some pretty good matches one-on-one. But still, I thought it was kind of bizarre that they immediately put aside their differences just because they had a problem with R-Truth. I thought that was really weird. So we'll see where it goes. I don't know if it's a permanent thing. It doesn't seem like they have any other plans for Rusev or Nakamura right now. So what the fuck? Why not? We'll see where it goes, but it's a little weird, I guess, to say the least. The whole R-Truth thing is very weird to me. With him becoming United States champion after Nakamura had just won the belt back from Rusev, who had just beat Nakamura for the belt a month earlier, that belt means nothing. So at this point, why not put it on R-Truth? Who gives a shit? The belt is as worthless as the belt I'm wearing around my waist right now. It has about as much prestige as a fucking spoon. So why not? Why not? Why not put the belt on R-Truth, albeit for a month, before Andrade beats the shit out of him, takes the championship from him in time for WrestleMania? Why not? Speaking of which, actually, I didn't even mean to do that, honestly. But his next question, which I didn't even look at until I, just glanced at after I said that, could you see Andrade beating Truth for the U.S. title at Elimination Chamber? I hope so. It seems like they're setting up an Andrade Rey Mysterio match for Elimination Chamber which honestly might be the better option. I would save that match for WrestleMania. But the fact they had Andrade attack Rey Mysterio last night on SmackDown, to me, sends the message they're doing that match at Elimination Chamber and not WrestleMania. Otherwise, I don't know why they would have done that. If you do Andrade and R-Truth, what do you do with Rey Mysterio? Does he feud with Rusev or Nakamura right now? It would feel a little abrupt. But in the long run, I don't know if it's at Elimination Chamber or at Fastlane or whenever. Andrade should absolutely be the one to beat R-Truth for that title. I don't know why the fuck they put the belt on Nakamura only to give it to R-Truth. Just keep it on Rusev. Have Andrade beat Rusev for the championship. What's wrong with that? That would have been a way better option. But, yeah, no, I think Andrade becoming champion after R-Truth would be a way better option. I just got done talking about this. The belt means nothing. But if they really want to make it mean something, they can put the belt on Andrade and try to build him up as a big deal. So, we'll see, but that's the route that I would take with Andrade in the U.S. Championship picture. FD from Facebook, his first question was, do you see All Elite Wrestling trying to take the opportunity in grabbing as much WWE tag teams as possible for their roster, given that the WWE tag team division is an overall in tatters? Is that even a word? Also, other than the Revival, any possible WWE tag team targets you think will jump ship to AEW? Well, easily Gallows and Anderson. I feel like as soon as their contracts expire, they're gone. I heard their contracts aren't up until a little later on this year and may not be until the fall, which is weird because I thought they signed in the spring of 2016. Nonetheless, they have to be gone. I know they resurfaced on SmackDown last night. People probably forgot they were even employed. But, they should leave for AEW. They're good friends with the Young Bucks. They're good friends with Cody, I'm sure. Why the fuck not? They're probably better off just leaving. So Gallows and Anderson, hands down, absolutely. Beyond them, there's really no tag teams I would want to see in AEW. Like, the Usos would be cool. The New Day would be cool. They're not being buried by the company as much as the Revival are and Gallows and Anderson are. At least the Usos are on TV. I read a report from, surprise, surprise, Ringside News, that the New Day was considering leaving the WWE, and I almost laughed my ass off. That is the most comical shit I've ever heard in my entire life. Why the fuck would the New Day want to go to AEW when they're still selling merch in WWE? Granted, they're not as hot as they were a few years ago, not by a long shot, but they're still selling merch. They have great, product deals and merchandise deals and sponsorships in WWE. They're still selling the Bootios. My fucking girlfriend Alexis, she got me a box of Bootios for Christmas, which I did not think were still a thing until she got them for me for Christmas a few months ago, about a month ago. So they're still selling that shit. The t-shirts, the pancakes, those guys are tailor-made for WWE. That's not to say they wouldn't succeed elsewhere, but these guys don't need to go anywhere else. And as soon as their act reaches a point, which some can argue it already has, when their act reaches a point where they're just absolutely intolerable and they need to break up, there's still big things on the horizon for Big E, no pun intended. Xavier can do some cool stuff. Even Kofi Kingston is a very reliable worker and can do more stuff outside of the tag team division. So there's no reason for them to go to AEW, or the Usos for that matter. Beyond them, the well runs dry. There's not many tag teams between Raw and SmackDown that I would want to see in AEW, aside from the Revival. I guess you could say Sanity, because they have not been seen on SmackDown in months. I don't know if they would all leave. Like, Nikki Cross, I think, is fine right where she is, and she should not be with Sanity. I think that would be the fucking, that would be the kiss of death for Nikki Cross, because they have not been seen on SmackDown in a long-ass time. I know they were on SmackDown for like 2 weeks about a month ago, after the whole shakeup, and then nothing. No, but with Sanity, I mean, Eric Young would have to leave, Killian Dane, Alexander Wolf, and maybe they bring back, the other guy that got cut from the company about a year ago. Why not? I forgot his name already, but, they would be a good group for AEW. I don't know if they would thrive over there. I don't see why not. But still, I think Sanity and AEW is not too far-fetched. Again, I don't know when their deals are up, but they're not doing anything on the main roster. AOP, maybe. I don't know. I feel like that's another team that's tailor-made for WWE, so I don't see them leaving. They've barely scratched the surface. I know they've only been on the main roster for about 9 months, but there's still time for them to kind of rebound. And one of them got hurt, and maybe that's why they got the tag team titles taken off of them about a month or two ago. But, AOP, are there even any other tag teams? Like the B team, I give no shits about seeing them in AEW. Ryder and Hawkins, Hardy and Wyatt, are they even still a team? Like, we haven't seen them on TV since August. Another team that probably is going to stay right where they're at in WWE. I They are still a team when they come back to TV. I don't know where the fuck Bray Wyatt is, by the way. The guy's not been seen on TV since August. And as far as I know, he's perfectly healthy. So I don't know what's going on with Bray Wyatt. But anyway, that's about it. The Ascension, who gives a fuck? So yeah, probably the Revival, and absolutely Gallows and Anderson, maybe Sanity in the AEW. FD's second question here. Which one would you prefer to watch during the Super Bowl halftime? The Super Bowl halftime show featuring Maroon 5, which could possibly include one of the most iconic songs from SpongeBob SquarePants, Sweet Victory, as a tribute to the late Steven Hillenburg. Which, if you don't know about this, check out the info on one of those Valeskabam's YouTube channel, or however you pronounce that. Or Halftime Heat, which includes a 6-man tag team match featuring NXT's top stars, coming off of the fallout of NXT TakeOver Phoenix last Saturday. Easily, without a doubt, hands down, Halftime Heat. Without question. I don't watch the Super Bowl most years. I don't care about the Super Bowl most years. I really could not give two shits, to be quite honest with you. Even the halftime show, I watch more for the game than I do the halftime show. I remember when the Red Hot Chili Peppers did it about 5 years ago. I watched it with my college roommate at the time, and that was about it. I think Katy Perry did like a Bam Bam Bigelow tribute, not intentionally, like about a year or two after that. That's all I know. That's all I remember from the halftime show. I'm not watching the Super Bowl this year. I think I'm working. Thank God. I wouldn't watch it anyway. But Halftime Heat, I'll be working, but maybe I can put aside some time to watch the show on the WWE Network. We'll see, depending on what time it airs. Maybe around 6 or so. I don't know. They sit during halftime. That could be whatever fucking time that is. But Halftime Heat is a great concept. I'm honestly surprised they haven't done it sooner than this. The network's been around now for 5 years. And only now they're tapping into this concept of doing a live match during the Super Bowl. That's really smart. Especially with 6 guys that people fucking love right now in NXT. Dream, Cole, Black, Gargano, Ciampa, Ricochet. I think it's an awesome idea. So easily, I'll be watching Halftime Heat. Usually, if there's anything worth noting about the halftime show during the Super Bowl, I'll go out of my way to watch it after the fact. But without a doubt, I'm watching Halftime Heat. Now, that being said, I know exactly what you're talking about. Someone filled me in on the whole SpongeBob thing and Sweet Victory from that episode of SpongeBob where I think it's Squidward's like brother or like his friend or whatever is trying to impress him. So if you don't watch SpongeBob, you have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. This sounds like crazy talk to you. I understand that, but it's that memorable, iconic scene from SpongeBob, one of the first few seasons, which the show went downhill after that, which I've talked about ad nauseum here on the show before. But it was when they were at the Super Bowl and they show SpongeBob playing Sweet Victory or singing Sweet Victory or whatever. And they want the guy who either did the original song or had Maroon 5 cover it. I don't know. But I know, where are they this year? New Orleans for the Super Bowl? I forgot. But wherever they are for the Super Bowl this year, they had teased, the arena had tweeted out a few months ago, like, oh, we might actually do it this year because people have been begging them for years to do it. And they might actually do it this time around because the creator of SpongeBob died a few months ago. So they might actually do it. We'll see. But even if they did, I'll go out of my way to watch it after the fact. For the meantime, as of now, I'm watching Halftime Heat. No questions asked. At the Wrestle Guy from Twitter, his question was, the big question right now is who will face Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania. I feel like the best opponent and the one that makes the most sense is John Cena. I feel like the way Bryan's character is currently, you can make it super personal, and Cena having the chance to go for number 17. How do you feel about this? I just got done writing an article for Bleacher Report on Tuesday, just yesterday, about like top matches as of now that are looking likely for WrestleMania. And that was before the Elimination Chamber announcement. But honestly, I mean, I don't think Bryan's losing the championship anyway. I guess he could, which would be cool. Styles could win back the belt. Mustafa Ali would be fucking awesome. I don't see that happening, but that would be amazing. Maybe it comes down to Bryan Mustafa Ali the same way it came down to Bryan and Santino Marella about 6 years ago inside the Chamber, and then Bryan wins. Samoa Joe would be cool as champion. Randy Orton, we have not seen as champion in about 2 years, and I don't have much interest in that, but it would be cool. Jeff Hardy would be cool. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, with the whole Bryan Cena thing. So I wrote in the article that Bryan and Cena was my WWE Championship match for WrestleMania, because like you said, there's no one that makes as much sense. I think Bryan, at the rate that he's going, should be the WWE Champion going into WrestleMania, regardless of what happens at Chamber or at Fastlane. Bryan could, in fact, lose the championship at the Chamber, only to get it back at Fastlane. let's not, that's still within the realm of possibility here, because they do have 2 pay-per-views between now and WrestleMania. They have Chamber and then Fastlane about 3 weeks after that. So there is a possibility we see a new champion crowned, and then Bryan gets the belt back in time for WrestleMania. That being said, Bryan versus really anyone on that roster does not compare to Bryan versus Cena. And Cena is not going to be a popular choice with some people. I know he's not been full-time for a while, but there's still some detractors that do not want to see Cena in a top match at WrestleMania, which I was among those people 5 years ago, but Cena has taken a backseat at every WrestleMania since he beat The Rock back at WrestleMania 29. WrestleMania 30, yeah, he's won more often than not since WrestleMania 29, but still. WrestleMania 30, he was in a mid-card match with Bray Wyatt. WrestleMania 31, mid-card match with Rusev. WrestleMania 32, he didn't even wrestle because he was hurt, but he was at the show in a segment with The Rock and the Wyatt family. WrestleMania 33, glorified mid-card match with Nikki Bella, Maurice, and The Miz. WrestleMania 34, lost in a 2-second squash to The Undertaker. So for that alone, Cena should be in a top match at WrestleMania. I don't know how they arrive at that point. I made that pretty clear in the article. I don't know how they get there, especially with Cena not being inside the chamber, and I don't know when he's going to come back. But Bryan and Cena have great in-ring chemistry. You can make it personal. It just makes sense. Cena chasing number 17 is a story they have to do at some point. Whether he wins it or not, which he's bound to win it at some point. People are going to be upset about that, but if it makes you feel any better, Ric Flair won way more than 16 titles anyway. That's the WWE record for whatever reason. I'm pretty sure Ric Flair won many more world championships than 16. 16 is only recognized by the company for whatever reason. Nonetheless, Cena chasing number 17 is a story that writes itself. Why not have him chase the guy on SmackDown right now, the hottest heel in the entire company, and Daniel Bryan? To me, it makes the most sense. Bryan and Cena can have a great match if their SummerSlam 2013 encounter was any indication. And Cena can get his big moment at WrestleMania. I thought it was weird that Cena beat Styles to tie the record back at the Rumble in 2017, because that moment could have been saved for WrestleMania. Styles and Cena should have been the WrestleMania match, because they weren't even in big matches at WrestleMania that year. Styles opened up the show with Shane, which was great, an awesome match, way better than expected, but he should have been in the top match that year. And then Cena fucking proposed to the girl that ended up dumping him a year later. So it would have been a lot better had they just gone with that as a WWE Championship match over fucking Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton, which sucked. That could have been the glorified mid-card match for that year's WrestleMania, and I would not have had a problem with it. You could have The Miz and Shane do the WrestleMania match from WrestleMania 35 2 years earlier. I would not have had a problem with that. Nonetheless, Bryan and Cena, WrestleMania 35, I absolutely agree with you. I think is the match to do at WrestleMania. The match would be great. The story would make sense. Cena can get his big moment at WrestleMania, have one last run with the top title. Hopefully this time he doesn't drop it within 2 weeks like he did back in 2017 at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. Give him a nice little run with it, at least until SummerSlam. And then there he can drop it to like fucking Andrade or, someone cool or something like that. He's been doing the favors for a lot of people in recent years. Having him lose to an Andrade, or maybe revisit the Finn Balor thing that we saw a few weeks ago if Balor goes to SmackDown. We've already seen Seth Rollins. I think Seth Rollins is SmackDown bound in this year's Superstar Shakeup. We've already seen Cena and Rollins, go at it before, but that wouldn't be a bad match to do either. There's a few different options, but it all starts with Cena and Bryan at WrestleMania. At the WrestleGuy's second question, Sal's second question here, signs seem to be pointing to Charlotte being added to the Ronda Rousey match at WrestleMania. Do you think this is a mistake, and should it stay one-on-one, or do you think it'll actually benefit the match and story going forward? No, it should stay one-on-one. It should absolutely stay one-on-one. I don't want to say I wouldn't complain if Charlotte got added, because the match would still be great, but Charlotte does not need to be in there. If the verbal exchange between Becky and Ronda was any indication on Monday's Raw, they do not need Charlotte to be added into that match to make it must-see. It already is must-see. I don't think I've ever seen a WrestleMania build where a women's match was the first match announced for the show. That's pretty amazing. And I think that says a lot about where it will be positioned on the card. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's either Rousey and Lynch main eventing the show, or Rollins and Lesnar. Nothing else comes close. Even if we do get Bryan and Cena, no other match should close out WrestleMania than Becky and Rousey. I think it was Bully Ray who said on Twitter the other day, that with, what was it that he said? That if any men's match can match the excitement that Rousey and Becky have, built up in recent months, then have that close the show. Until then, Becky and Ronda should close the show, and I absolutely agree with him. No, Charlotte does not need to be in there as like a fucking safe choice, just in case, to sell people in the match. She doesn't need to be in there. You could have had that as your WrestleMania match. It honestly probably would have been the WrestleMania match had we gotten Rousey and Becky at Survivor Series. And Rousey likely would have beat Becky clean, and then they would have moved on to Charlotte and Rousey at WrestleMania instead of doing it at Survivor Series. You can always go back to the match at some point down the road, especially if Rousey goes to SmackDown in the next Superstar Shakeup. And I think that's what they're going to do anyway. I think Becky goes to Raw, and then Rousey goes to SmackDown. And then if Rousey takes time off, at least you have Charlotte on the show to keep things, steady until she comes back. So I don't see why you can't do that, especially since Ronda's already beat everyone on Raw anyway, so why not go to SmackDown? But yeah, with Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania, Charlotte does not need to be added to that match. I mean, it would make sense because I know she still has unfinished business with Rousey too. She also cost her the match at TLC, a lot like Becky, so she still has a bone to pick with Charlotte, or Ronda Rousey rather. But you can always do that match at Elimination Chamber or at Fastlane if they wanted to. They're not going to, but it would be cool if they did. I know they don't do interpromotional stuff until WrestleMania and all the other big pay-per-views, for the most part. But I think they can afford to do that match at one of the pay-per-views between now and WrestleMania, because if anything, that's what those shows should be for. To do matches like that you're not going to do at WrestleMania. Or just save it until after WrestleMania. The point still stands. You do not need Charlotte in that match. It wouldn't be the worst thing. It wouldn't be as bad as adding like in fucking Nia Jax or something like that. But you do not need Charlotte in the WrestleMania main event just because she's Charlotte fucking Flair. I'm glad she's heel. I'm a Charlotte fan. I think she's awesome. She doesn't need to be in the match. Rousey and Becky sells itself. At Brett Veresik 94 from Twitter, his question was, since WWE turned Elias and Rusev for no reason like Braun Strowman last August, when will WWE learn from turning some of their most over faces? Yeah, I thought that was bizarre. The Elias thing, someone tried to justify to me on Twitter saying, he was already getting cheered as a heel anyway. Who gives a shit? He was still over. And it's not one of those cases like with Bobby Roode, for example, where he was getting cheered as a heel, so let's turn him babyface. He's not a good babyface. Elias is likely a better heel than a face, I agree with that, but he was still very over as a face. Bobby Roode has never really been over as a face the same way that he was as a heel. I know it's one of those things like, you're cheering him, let's turn him babyface, and then they turn him babyface, and then he sucks. Elias still had momentum as a face. He fucking lost to Baron Corbin clean 2 weeks in a row. For what reason? I have no fucking idea. No idea why they would have Elias lose to Baron Corbin 2 weeks in a row. That is so stupid. And then they turn him back heel. So the only saving grace of this is if they bring back Kevin Owens as a babyface or Sami Zayn as a babyface. Beyond that, I don't know why they did that. I thought that was insanely stupid. I like Jeff Jarrett. I think the Elias Jeff Jarrett thing is cool. To turn him heel only to have Jeff Jarrett, only for him to feud with Jeff Jarrett, to me is a little short-sighted. So I thought that was dumb. Maybe it's because Dean Ambrose is leaving and they need more heels. I don't know. I'm not sure. The timing is a little weird. But they should have kept him as a face because he was working as a face. Rusev, same thing. I mean, the guy was organically over with the whole Rusev Day thing, and then they turn him back into a heel. Again, why? Why do you need to have the guy as a heel? SmackDown already has plenty of heels. They have, The Miz is a babyface for now in the tag team with Shane, but he's going to turn on Shane soon enough. Either way, even if Shane turns heel, which I don't think he will, I think it's going to be The Miz. If his history, has told us anything with tag team partners, it's going to be Miz going back to being a heel. So if that's the case, you have The Miz as a heel, you have now Rusev, Nakamura, you have Andrade, you have Samoa Joe, you have Daniel Bryan, and Randy Orton. That's like 7 top heels and no faces. Not to say Rusev would be a top face anyway, but they don't have many faces. They have AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, Rey Mysterio. That's a good core 3, but that's just 3 people. They need more than that. Mustafa Ali, that's a good 4th person to have, but again, they need more. So hopefully they turn either Samoa Joe or they turn Nakamura back, which would be confusing as all hell coming off the Rusev turn, but They need someone to go face because they can't have only 4 faces and like 7 or 8 heels. It's just very uneven. But I don't know why they keep doing that. The Braun thing was so stupid. The only reason they turned him back babyface, he would still likely be a heel now if Roman didn't get sick. They turned him heel because they want Roman to be the guy. And they cut short all of his momentum in the process. I thought that was so stupid. To turn Braun Strowman heel at the height of his popularity. And the guy has not been able to rebound since. At Reborn Again, John Ritland from the Twitter machine. Real quick cheap plug for John. Obviously his channel, I plug it all the time. It's great stuff. Real Honesty with John Ritland. Him and the Durbinator. Awesome content. They were on Being the Elite this week too. They went to a Defy Wrestling show in Washington, I think Seattle, or around that area, a week or two ago. And they're seen on the latest episode of Being the Elite that aired this past week on YouTube on Monday. In the front row, when the Young Bucks are on like the apron or something like that, you see John very clearly in the Durbinator standing right next to him. I thought that was awesome. I popped big for that. Anyways, first question was last night's episode of SmackDown one of the laziest in recent memory? So many promos and so few matches. John, I'm sorry, I can't agree. I do not agree with you there. I thought it was a good show. Not to say it was a great show, but sometimes you are going to have promo-heavy shows. Not every show is going to be very wrestling heavy. Some shows are going to have, it's going to be 50-50, even balance of promos and matches. Some shows will have a lot more matches than promos. Some shows will have a lot more promos than matches. Some shows you can have like 12 matches, no promos, and none of the matches are all that memorable. So it goes both ways. I thought last night's SmackDown was good. The whole Rusev, Nakamura, R-Truth thing was bizarre to me. I'm not a fan of it, but Charlotte and Becky, great promo. The Miz, Shane, and Miz's dad thing I thought was well done. The 4-way was a lot of fun. The Bryan promo was great. There might have been one more promo. Oh, the Andrade and Rey Mysterio was more of a segment than a real promo, but I thought that was good too. I thought it was a solid show. Better than Raw overall, in my opinion, from Monday's Raw. From Monday, I thought it was a way better show. So I wouldn't call it lazy. I mean, sometimes if you have more promos than matches, even though SmackDown is the more wrestling-heavy show, you're going to have times where coming off of pay-per-views like the Rumble, and in order to build to a pay-per-view like Elimination Chamber, you're going to have more promos than matches. So I thought it was a good show, personally. His second question, this should be a slam dunk, dude. What are you more excited for during WrestleMania weekend? The Hall of Fame or the MSG show from Ring of Honor or New Japan? Come on, John. You know the answer to this. It's obviously the Hall of Fame. No, I'm just kidding. The MSG show with Ring of Honor or New Japan. I've already got my tickets. I still do not know what my status is for WrestleMania. People keep asking me. I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I really don't know. I want to go. I'm planning on going. I do not have my tickets bought yet for really anything except for the MSG show. Not TakeOver, not Raw, not Access, not WrestleMania itself, not even a fucking hotel. But I gotta go because it's so close. That being said, I gotta go to the MSG show. I bought my tickets months ago. I think they sold out originally, and they made more seats available, and I bought those. They're not amazing seats. They're all the way up, but fuck it. I just want to be there to see history. Yes, a lot of the people I was going to see, like Cody and the Young Bucks, I wanted to see there, are not going to be there. Probably not Kenny Omega either, but still, it should be a cool show. I want to see Okada live and Tanahashi live. That would be cool. Going to a Hall of Fame just to cross it off the bucket list would be nice. Between the two, though, I'd rather see the New Japan guys in person first. I've never seen the New Japan guys aside from being at Ring of Honor shows. I'll not get the chance. I probably will not get the chance to go to a New Japan show, let alone in Japan, for a long time. So why not go to this? So I'm way more excited for that. To say that I have my tickets to that show so far and not WrestleMania TakeOver or TakeOver is a big thing. You would think it would be the other way around, but I will be at that MSG show, and I can't wait to be there for it. His third question, do you think the WWE Women's Tag Team titles will succeed or flop? It's hard to say. I don't want to be a negative Nancy and say that they're going to flop. But you look at how TNA used their women's tag titles. Granted, it was a different time. Granted, it was 10 years ago. Granted, they have a different roster than the WWE. But their women's tag team titles fizzled out within a year, if that. So the women's tag titles, I'm still not a big proponent of them. I don't think they need them. I think if they just use the women better outside of the title pictures, the main championship pictures, the main title scenes, I think they'd be a lot better off. But if they want to do the tag titles and they can float between the two brands and make it work, then I'm a fan. That's fine. So we'll see. I think they will do well. I think they will see to that. We'll see. But I think they're going to really make an effort, at least right from the get-go, to make them mean something. I'm just not looking forward to seeing Bayley and Banks versus the Iconics every week for like 6 months. That's what I'm saying. Like, we have a lot of teams in WWE. Most of them don't even mean anything. The Iconics are losers. Rose and Sonya were teasing tension for a while, and apparently they're back on the same page. The Riot Squad are a bunch of losers. Banks and Bayley are the only real team I'm looking forward to seeing in that division, to be honest with you. That's about it. Alexa Bliss and Mickey, Mickey James and Alicia Fox, That's about it. Don't really care about the rest of them. But yeah, I think they will. I think they will do well, at least initially. Next question comes from the beautiful, the one and only, trademarked to Ricochet, at Lex DeGiacomo from the Twitter machine. Do you think a much smaller roster would make for far better shows and booking decisions? I think the endless array of wrestlers on Raw and SmackDown makes for a muddy show each week, and some get left out. Also, I love you, and I demand a Wrestle Rant tee. Well, listen, honey, I told you this last week here on the show. I don't know if you heard or not, but you gotta win the Royal Rumble game, which, by the way, cheap plug, congrats to Ross and Jared, two longtime players of the Royal Rumble game, for winning this year's men's and women's pools in the 2019 Royal Rumble game on the website, nextairwrestling.net. If you want to win a t-shirt, enter the pool. You just might win. Jared's been joining the game almost every year since its inception in 2013. He finally won with the men on Sunday night. Ross won for the second time. I think he won back in 2016. This time he's getting a t-shirt, a Becky Lynch. Jared's getting a Seth Rollins t-shirt. So congrats to them one more time for winning the game and participating. Thanks to everyone who participated in the game. It was a great time, as it is every single year. But getting back to the first part of your question, Alexis, a smaller roster wouldn't make for better shows and booking decisions. Well, I don't know if we need a smaller roster because, well, first of all, if they bring up new people from NXT, they can't just add them into the mix. I think the issue with WWE is that they've been hoarding talent for so long now where they just keep signing people, which is great, but if you don't get rid of the old guard or get rid of people you're not using anymore, it just kind of adds to the roster, and there's a lot of people that are going to be lost in the shuffle. So I think a lot of people, like a Dean Ambrose, him leaving might make for more opportunities for someone like, an Aleister Black getting called up, or a Velveteen Dream, or someone like that, or someone already on the roster they're not doing a ton with, or maybe a Kevin Owens when he comes back, or an Elias, or a Baron Corbin, who I don't give two shits about, but, a Baron Corbin, or an Elias, or a Sami Zayn, someone like that, someone like that. Hideo Itami's already going to be leaving. Dolph Ziggler's rumored to be done with WWE in the foreseeable future. We'll see. He did show up in the Rumble, so it's anyone's guess as to what his future holds in the company. But there's a lot of people that might be on their way out, which, if that's what it takes to kind of clean up the roster a bit, and a lot of those people leaving are very talented and big stars, for their respective divisions, Itami for 205 Live, Rousey for the women, Dean for the men, the Revival for the tag teams, if that's what it takes to, allow for more opportunities for people from NXT and to kind of open WWE's eyes to start using people the way they deserve to be used, then so be it. If that's what it takes, then I'm all for it. We'll see. That's not to say that, when Black comes up, he'll be a world champion. Yeah, he should be. But there's a lot of people that get called up and get fucking squandered. Shinsuke Nakamura feels like a complete loser compared to where he was a year or two ago. A year ago, he won the Royal Rumble. A year later, he lost to Rusev on SmackDown after a 2-day reign as U.S. champion. What a fucking joke. So, again, a smaller roster might be for the best, but there's a lot of people who should just not be there. Like the Colognes. We have not seen them on TV in a year. They shouldn't be on TV anyway. Why are they still under contract? I like Shelton Benjamin a lot, but if you're not going to use the guy, why the hell is he there? That's just my question. So they would benefit from a smaller roster in certain respects. SmackDown Live, when they first brought back the brand split, they didn't really have a lot of people to justify doing a brand split. They had a little more than average, but not a ton. SmackDown had a smaller roster. You would see a lot of the same people on SmackDown every week, which wasn't a bad thing, but almost everyone was being used and had a storyline. Very few people were out on the sidelines when SmackDown first started, went live, and became its own exclusive brand again back in 2016. Apollo Crews was on the show almost every fucking week. So was Kalisto, Dolph Ziggler, Baron Corbin, and all these other guys. Dean Ambrose, AJ Styles, these guys were the workhorses of SmackDown. Nowadays, because the SmackDown roster is so big, and is almost as big as the men's, for Raw, which is crazy because Raw has that third hour, so you can kind of justify them having a bigger roster. SmackDown has a lot of people they don't use. Ty Dillinger's not been on the show in months. I know he got hurt, but he wasn't on the show anyway. Aiden English has not been on SmackDown since he split up from Rusev. Benjamin, I forgot he was even employed until he showed up in the Rumble. There's just a lot of people they do not need on that SmackDown roster. Raw too. There's a lot of people on Raw they just do not need. So a smaller roster would be better, but it's more about quality than it is quantity. Because they could have a smaller roster and still book people like shit. That's the issue here. That's the issue. If you book someone like shit, it doesn't matter if you have 10 people on your show or 30 people. If you book someone like shit and fans don't care, it doesn't matter who else is on the roster. So, that being said, I think it's a good idea in theory, but it's all about execution with this company. If they have a smaller roster, there's a better chance of certain guys being used better and utilized well, but there's no guarantees, of course. There's no guarantees whatsoever. So, again, I'm not saying I'll fire this person. Well, kind of. I don't want to see anyone out of a job. But I think a smaller roster would help, but it's not going to solve the core issue until there's a change at the top of that company that sees people start getting more opportunities. And yeah, they promised that on TV about a month ago. Not really much has happened. Yeah, they start pushing more people. They're fucking pushing people because they're afraid they're going to leave. Surprise, surprise. If that's what it takes, if the Revival threatening to quit is what it takes for them to get a push, that's pretty sad. Same thing with Sasha Banks. Tommy, I think that might have been what they were going for when they brought him back and they started building him up a bit. Maybe that's what they were going for, hoping he would stick around. Well, obviously not, because he has since put in his notice and is gone from the company. So, again, it's a shame, but it's really all about not how many people they have per se. Although a smaller roster, more compact roster of guys and girls would help, it's all about how they're utilized. And also, I love you. Next question from @Scarlet, one from Twitter. Best and worst of NXT TakeOver Phoenix and Royal Rumble. So the worst of TakeOver, there really wasn't much. I thought it was a great show. Again, some matches weaker than others. Easily the weakest match was Riddle and Ono. I thought that was a good, unique match. It was not as great as I thought it could have been. Because I thought obviously the first match was 6 seconds. The second match was good, but it was by no means great. And just the third match was solid, but it was easily the weakest of all the matches on that show. So I guess that was the quote-unquote worst. Beyond that, everything else was good to great to amazing. So even Belair and Baszler wasn't amazing. I thought it was pretty good, though. For TakeOver, the best, every match was great, but I thought the two top best matches on the show, the main event was very good, the women's match was pretty good, was the tag title match was excellent, and Ricochet and Gargano, like I said at the start of this show, is so far my favorite match of 2019. Granted, it's only January 30th. We're only a month into the new year. Surprise, surprise. But it's still my favorite match out of everything I've seen so far this year. And I loved it that much. Best match of the weekend by far. With the Rumble, it's weird. It was a great show overall. I didn't love both Rumbles. I thought they were good Rumbles. I thought last year's Rumbles were infinitely better. The finishes were great this year. Maybe better than last year's. But last year's Rumble matches, overall, I thought were better matches. But those were good. I would call that, the best thing about Royal Rumble was Lynch winning. Her moment. The main event. I thought Balor and Brock was very good. AJ and Bryan was easily the worst part about Royal Rumble. Just because, it was very boring. I talked about that earlier, not to go on another rant about it, but that was easily the worst part. And the fact it was a fucking 5-hour show. It was ridiculous. It was a 5-hour show for the Royal Rumble. Only with WrestleMania can you get away with that type of shit. Was it even 5 hours? It might have been 6. Well, 6 or 7 if you include the kickoff, but it went from 7 to 12. That's 5 hours. WrestleMania should not be 5 hours. But they get away with WrestleMania because it's WrestleMania. Royal Rumble, completely unnecessary. Scarlet One, second question here. Is Ronda Rousey ever going to get good on the mic? Yeah, she's not that good. She's been more comfortable recently than she has been, when she first showed up in the company. She just feels overly forced and scripted. If they just let her speak from the heart as I see her do in backstage interviews, she would be a lot better. But the thing is, it's funny to me because she kicked out that promo on Monday's Raw getting booed. She lost her cool. The promo sucked. But then, after kind of embracing the boos, not that she went off on the fans or anything, but once Becky Lynch lit a fire underneath her. She cut one of the best promos she's cut since she came to WWE. When she was in Becky's face and she was talking about how she was main eventing pay-per-views when Becky Lynch was on the fucking kickoff show. Like, it was amazing. I thought it was a great verbal exchange. It got me even more excited for that match than it was before, and I thought that was impossible. So yeah, I thought, Rousey, when motivated, when given the right material, when under the right circumstances, she can be great. And the right person has got to bring it out of her. Under the right circumstances, too. She's not really used to getting booed, but she got frustrated, she was pissed, and she used that to her advantage. We need to see more of that Ronda Rousey in the build-up to WrestleMania and beyond. What do you make of the Nakamura-Rusev alliance? I already talked about this earlier. I think Jeremy asked about it. I don't mind it for now as a one-off thing. It's fine. It's not going to go anywhere. They don't really need it as a tag team or anything like that, like Rusev and Nakamura as tag team champions. I don't really care. Nakamura deserves way better than that, and Rusev is kind of get what you get from him at this point. It's fine. It's a temporary thing. I don't know where it's going, and to be quite honest, I don't really care. Next question, thoughts on Hideo Itami and his apparent release from WWE. I might talk more about this in length on Wrestle Rant Radio on Thursday, but so here's the thing. Itami, I thought it was weird that he took the pinfall loss in that 4-way at the Rumble. When you have Kalisto and Akira Tozawa in there, two guys who have been glorified jobbers. Kalisto a little less than Akira, but Tozawa has been a fucking jobber for like 2 years now in that 205 Live division. I'm surprised he hasn't up and left. But Itami gets pinned, which I thought was strange, because you could have had, one of the other two get pinned and build to Buddy Murphy versus Itami at some point. That's not happening. So Itami gets pinned there. He has the match with Tozawa on Tuesday on 205 Live, which I also thought was weird, because they've done this match before, they've had a feud before. Didn't really serve much of a purpose. Well, they did it to write Itami out of storylines because he lost, and then he got attacked by Daivari, which to me said, okay, he might be on his way out. No more than an hour later, did the news break on Twitter, Itami asked for his release from WWE. So that does not surprise me at all. To be quite honest, I'm surprised it took him this long. And it looks like WWE is willing to give him his release, otherwise they would not have written him out of storylines the way they did on 205 Live, which to me is strange. Maybe they get the feeling he's not going to AEW, but with all this talk about, we're not going to let people out of their contracts, I don't know, it's a little weird to me. It's just a little weird. Maybe they know he's going back to Noah and he's going to wrestle over there. They don't really care about fucking Noah. They've let him wrestle over there for Noah before while he was under contract to WWE. So they don't really care, unless it's like New Japan or Ring of Honor or AEW or Impact. They don't really seem to care too much. If he goes to AEW, that's a big loss for WWE. Itami could have been a way bigger star than what he was, to be honest. I mean, obviously, that's really not saying much because everyone knows that, but for a quick recap, I'll talk more about it, again, like I said, on Wrestle Rant Radio on Thursday, but he could have been a way bigger star for NXT. Even at NXT, it's not like he was a top-tier main event talent in NXT. Injuries got in the way. He got hurt at the wrong possible time, and he got fucked over. And he got fucked over again when he got hurt in late 2016, right as he was about to be pushed again. And he was out for a few more months, and he never won the NXT Championship. And then he came back, and he just wasn't all that exciting. He was not the same Hideo Itami that he was before, that we saw when he first came to NXT. And even then, even people can argue that he wasn't the same Itami, the same Kenta that he was over in Japan. He was just never a good fit for WWE. I thought he would have left years ago, to be honest with you, but maybe he thought he could see it through and make it work. He got called up to 205 Live. He had a couple good matches on there with Cedric Alexander and Mustafa Ali, but again, it didn't really go anywhere after that. That was about it. He never won the championship once. He contended for it a few times, but never won it. And that was about it. The ceiling had already kind of been set. He made one appearance on Raw. He was in that Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal back at WrestleMania 31. So it was clear they had big plans for him before he got hurt the first time. Then he got hurt a second time after being out for a year and a half. That was what really hindered his momentum, and he never recovered. So it's a shame, but it's probably for the best. I called him a big star for 205 Live before. It is a loss. It's not a huge loss. If Cedric left, it's not the same impact that when Neville left. That was a big impact on 205 Live because he was the only one that made that show worth watching at the time. When Austin Aries left, that was a big loss for 205 Live. He never won anything there, but he still was a big star. He was a notable name, and he got cut. He got fired. With Hideo Itami, again, he went for the championship a few times, but he's not on the level of what Mustafa Ali was before he went to SmackDown Live. He's not on the level of Cedric Alexander. He's not even on the level of Buddy Murphy. So it's not a huge loss. They'll rebound. They got ACH coming in soon, Trevor Lee, Kushida. They're all going to 205 Live, then 205 Live is in good hands. Obviously, Itami's loss will not hurt them too much, but it's probably for the better as long as the guy is happy and he's more motivated because he looks like he put on some poundage in the last couple of years. He might be better off over in Japan, so it's a shame, but not surprising. And the final question from @Scarlet1, their question was, thoughts on the new Daniel Bryan's new WWE Championship? It's been getting a lot of love from his eco-friendly extremist character. In general, has been getting a lot of love, even amongst casuals. So basically what they're asking is, what are my thoughts on the new title belt? I like it. I saw some people say, oh, I hate it. It's ugly. I think it's cool. I think, Bryan mentioned it a few months ago about getting his own title belt that wasn't leather. So this is hardly anything new. He said he would get it at some point. It probably took a little longer to have it made than what some expected. Hopefully he holds on to it for a while, like at least for WrestleMania. But it is a cool design. It's, tailor-made for his character. I think it's perfect, literally and figuratively. And I like it a lot. It's a cool design. It makes sense with his current character, the whole leather thing. It was kind of, contradictory to have leather in the championship belt that Bryan was holding if he's doing this whole environmentalist character. I think it's awesome. I'm a big fan of it. It deserves to be getting a lot of love, and yeah, I enjoy it a lot. I think it's a cool design, and we'll see where, see how long he holds on to it for until he eventually loses it to either John Cena or someone else. And that does it, guys, for this week's edition, episode 270 of #AskGSM here today for January 30th, 2019. Thank you guys, as always, for checking out the show, sending in your questions. Your support means the world. If you want to continue to send in questions here to the show and have your question answered here on the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook at facebook.com/gram.gsm.matthews. with the comment on the post that I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section of this very video. I'll include it in next week's edition. So with all that being said, guys, enjoy the rest of your week. We'll be back next Wednesday with another all-new edition of #AskGSM. Until then, I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.